I hope you all are fine and doing well. So let's start the biosynthetic pathways of unit number 1. So as you can see this image, so here there is a production of the biosynthetic pathways have been mentioned, and we have discussed in the previous class that there are number of pathways that is already working. We can say the number of cycles that we are most familiar with, like the pentose phosphate pathway or the TCA cycle. So here you can see these two, or you can say the most important pathways or the cycle or the route basically that is involved in the production of various type of metabolites, and we have covered about the primary as well as the secondary metabolites. So we know the basic unit that we also the humans require is the sugar. We need the carbohydrate source, and the plant is also the sugar is also the requirement of the plant. As we know, in the photosynthesis, glucose is produced. I hope you remember about the photosynthetic process that is involved in the plants. Glucose molecule is produced and it is utilized by the plant for its various functions. That is used in the metabolism of different type of metabolites, like primary as well as secondary. And we know primary metabolites are required by the plant and they are directly involved in the growth, development and the reproduction, whereas the secondary metabolites, they are generally required to provide the defense mechanism to the plant, and they include, yes, alkaloids, glycosides, tannins. And we humans, we have explored the secondary metabolites from the plant for the treatment of various type of diseases and disorders. So just see this sugar that is produced through the glycolysis. Okay, we will focus, first of all we will focus over here in the straight line way. The sugar that is produced through the glycolysis, and through which phosphenol pyruvate is produced, and basically that pyruvate is further introduced, or you can say the utilized in the TCA cycle, and it ultimately produced. Don't worry, we will do the step by step, but this will give you an overview what are we are going to cover in the unit number 1, because it is a bit typical, so you must concentrate on the video. So again I am repeating, sugar is the main unit that is produced by different photosynthetic processes and also by the glycolysis. So sugar through the glycolysis, again it is resulted in the formation of the phosphenol pyruvate and then pyruvate. Please see here, I am showing the glycolysis for better understanding. In glycolysis, phosphenol pyruvate is produced, which is then converted into pyruvate with the help of various enzymes like pyruvate kinase. So in this process, there are a number of different intermediate steps are involved. So this diagram will just give an overview how this metabolites are basically generated or produced or biosynthesized. We will use the word biosynthesized in the plant. Just see here again, sugar through glycolysis. Again, from glycolysis we have seen that phosphenol pyruvate and pyruvate is finally produced, and this is involved in the TCA cycle, which is resulted into again malonyl coenzyme and acetyl coenzyme, and from this malonyl coenzyme fatty acids are produced. Ultimately lipids have been biosynthesized, and from this acetyl coenzyme mevalonic acid is produced, which then resulted into the formation of the steroid as well as the isoprenoid derivatives in the plants. So in this way, lipids, steroids and isoprenoid derivatives are biosynthesized in the plant. In which way? Yes, we can say that lipids are produced by this pathway. Okay, and it is the in this malonyl coenzyme is used, or we can say that steroids and isoprenoids, they are produced by mevalonic acid pathway, because in our syllabus, I hope you remember, just see this acetate pathway is there, shikimic acid pathway is there, acetate pathway is sometimes known as the mevalonic acid pathway. So let's see how this shikimic acid is produced. So now focus upon this pathway, this one. We have completed this one. Okay, now we will focus upon sugar, and then we will produce the alkaloids. How alkaloids are biosynthesized? Yes, by shikimic acid pathway, as you can see in this image. Now how this is produced? Shikimic acid is produced via pentose phosphate pathway. Again, sugar is the main source. The sugar that is involved through pentose phosphate pathway, and we know in the glycolysis phosphenol pyruvate is produced, and they both involved in the pentose phosphate, or you can say the pentose phosphate pathway, which resulted into the production of this shikimic acid, and this shikimic acid later produced these alkaloids, or you can say before that aromatic amino acids are produced, which then biosynthesized alkaloids. And we know there are different type of alkaloids. We will see which type of alkaloids are synthesized by which type of amino acid. And in this way, you see here the tannins and the flavonoids, they are produced by, yes, again shikimic acid pathway. Okay, so let's see this pentose phosphate pathway in which phosphenol pyruvate and sugar is involved. So before that, let's see here again. Shikimic acid is produced via pentose phosphate pathway, which involve use of sugar and phosphenol pyruvate, and this is produced through glycolysis, which then shikimic acid then resulted into the production of various type of secondary metabolites like alkaloids, and also production of tannins and flavonoids. So if you see at this step, now we have completed this point and this whole thing. Now if you focus upon here, the first part, sugars, we know it resulted into the production because, as we know, carbohydrates are also the sugar derivatives. So polysaccharides are produced in this way, and we know we have completed the glycosides because the glycoside, they contain two parts, glycone and aglycone, and we know the glycone part is the sugar moiety. So yes, sugar is directly resulted in the production of these glycosides also. So I hope this will give you a brief idea how these metabolites are, primary as well as secondary, are biosynthesized in a plant. So how they are biosynthesized? They involve various type of pathways that are already occurring in the plant, like TCA cycle, of course glycolysis and pentose phosphate pathway. Suppose in this case sugar is produced through glycolysis, and then in this process we have phosphenol pyruvate. Finally it convert into the pyruvate, and this is pyruvate is involved in this TCA cycle, which then resulted into formation of lipid and steroids. Whereas when sugar is produced through pentose phosphate pathway and this phosphenol pyruvate is produced through glycolysis, they involved, and production of the shikimic acid is produced, which resulted into the formation of these type of metabolites. So I hope this will give a brief idea about the production of these secondary metabolites. So we will do next, in the next lecture we will do the shikimic acid pathway in detail. So thank you for your patience in listening. So these are the references I have used, and I acknowledge all the sources that I have used to prepare this video. Thank you for your patience and listening.